So, Rick Kimball, I cannot believe I'm sitting with him next to him here. Rick is a rock, I would say, in Silicon Valley. He's the founding partner of DCB. Being an entrepreneur building SVLC, I can only imagine how hard it has been to build a firm with the success of DCB. He has been multiple times in the Forbes Midas list. So this is a very special moment. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, how was your journey into venture capital? What got you to found DCB?
Well, like you find in my answers to a lot of things, luck played a big part of it. But, you know, I came to California in 1984. I worked for a brokerage firm called Montgomery Securities, which was one of kind of the early brokerage firms that focused on technology. And so I just got involved with raising money for tech companies for them, you know, beginning about 1984. Did that and related things with Montgomery until 1994. And, you know, built up a name, built up a reputation. And my fellow founder, who'd been on the buy side, I was, quote, on the sell side, he and I just started talking in the fall of 94 about starting a business. And there was literally one day where we, I guess it was Max's Opera House in Burlingame, where we had breakfast and finished up with drinks after dinner, and decided to leave our respective places of employment and start DCB. So I wouldn't tell you, though, it was anything more than if I was ever going to do something like that, it was the right time, you know, mid-30s. I had developed a good reputation. I had a partner who I trusted. It was the right time, right place. I'd be lying if I told you we had great vision or anything like that. But right time, right place. And the most fun I ever had in business was starting it. No income, no nothing, and just living by my wits. Loved every second of starting the business. Where it nearly killed my partner. So maybe that's why we've been good partners and still at least speak to each other after 20, whatever it is, 29 years.
So there's a lot of resilience in that, and also dealing with uncertainty and being very comfortable with it, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, but again, the good news for me was I never thought about it that way. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was so much fun, you know, to walk into, and of course, we weren't, because we hadn't worked together before. We had this public-private investing model. We weren't a good institutional fit. So by definition, we had to go to a lot of individuals. And guess what? The only rich people we knew were technology investors. So to walk into Mark Andreessen's office and have him say, at the end of the meeting, I'll give you $1 million. Or Mitch Kapoor, the founder of Lotus, the same thing. That got me more excited than if I walked into CalSTRS tomorrow and they said, Rick, I'm going to give you $2 million. Much more excited. So I never looked at it that way. I just knew we were going to get into business just with like a breath of fresh air to do something on my own.
And how did you get to, you know, your investment thesis, what DCB was going to be focused on?
Well, our focus, and at some level, it still pretty much is the focus, not that we haven't strayed at various points, was what we referred to as late-stage venture capital, focusing on what we referred to as franchise companies, i.e. companies that we thought had built competitive moats in their business And the theory about also investing, quote, crossover in them when they were public was pretty simple. It was, if it's a great company, just because it goes public doesn't mean it's still not a great company. And history certainly can show, if you've backed a great company, that IRRs after the company goes public can be a lot greater than IRRs invested beforehand. So that strategy has actually stayed pretty constant. Now, when the dot-com stuff came around, we strayed. We thought we could, we did a lot of early stage stupid deals. I mean, part of me says I feel really happy and lucky that we never invested in Pets.com, because that's like the poster child for crappy deals that people did. We did invest in a company called Petopia, which did exactly the same thing. And the lesson you learn is just if it's a bad business, putting it on the internet doesn't make it a great business. So in other words, we could sell a lot of dog food, what we did, but if your gross margins were negative, guess what? Your losses just become more negative over time. So, so we strayed, but then sort of got back to our roots. Of course, the business is now so much bigger. I mean, obviously, we're riding the biggest wave in investing history. I'd be kidding myself if I didn't say big again, right place, right time. So deals are a lot bigger. Funds are a lot bigger. But at some level, the concepts are pretty similar. And again, the feeling was we did because we could take less risk, still generate higher returns. And I think we've proven that out. We've had 11 funds, despite trying to lose money, i.e. doing some stupid things. We've never lost money in any of our funds. Most of them are top quartile. And actually some of our funds in the worst times are top decile. Because, we think about the downside and all that.
So you founded TCB several years before the dot-com.
Well, yes, found it. I mean, again, luck played a good part. We founded the year Netscape went public. So all of a sudden, people were focused on this thing called the internet. I'll tell you though, and I read that in our first document. This internet could be a big thing. There's like 500,000 users of this internet. It could be really big. So we didn't know what we were talking about.
How was it post 2001? What changes have you seen? From 2000 all the way now, I think it's kind of like a big story.
Well, I mean, if you look at that period, financial crisis later, COVID, by far the biggest thing impacting our business was the dot-com crisis. Financial crisis, all it really did in our business was delay things. It didn't kill our companies. It just kind of delayed some of our outcomes. But the dot-com crisis, again, because we made a lot of mistakes, nearly killed us. But what we did do was we triaged it. We made the decision, there were a lot of companies that just did not deserve any more of our capital. And that was very unique in the business back then, because it was very much a business that kept pouring money into companies and looked at things and said, oh, well, this is at a tenth of the valuation of the last one. Well, if it's a bad business, that doesn't matter. We were lucky that we still had a big fund left. And we were very lucky. We had, like a little company called Netflix in that fund, which there was a moment where we offered a deal to Netflix. CEO Reed Hastings didn't like it. We said, fine, go out and find a better deal. No one would give that guy a nickel. If we had stepped in at that time, Netflix wouldn't exist. you know, as I always say, and the young kids, and of course now they're no longer young in my firm. I used to say, what doesn't kill you, it goes, I guess, with the ultra marathon thing. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And we became a much stronger, much more rigorous, much more disciplined firm post the dot-com crisis than we ever were before.
An entrepreneur in the room once told me, if it's hurting you, it's killing them.
That's a good, I'm going to use that one. And I'm going to pretend I thought that, but anyway, go on.
It's just humor there.
Sorry to steal it from you.
Yeah. So what do you look for when you are looking at a deal? What kind of, you know, it's very important for you. Is it the entrepreneur, the market, the business model? What characteristics do you look for?
You know, at the end of the day, and you can look at our successes, and you can look at our failures, and it really boils down to management. And if you back, but you can make mistakes. You can think you're backing a great management team, and guess what? Find out very shortly thereafter that you goofed. But if you back a great team, you know, good things are going to happen. And if you get really lucky, and luck is a huge part of it, like the story I told you about Netflix, and I can tell you other stories about Netflix, you're going to get a great outcome. But you're going to at least get a good outcome. If you backed a weak management team, you know, things are going to fall apart. And, you know, the business, the industry that they're in, sure, you want to look at something that's got a big TAM and something that you think they product or something about their business that has a moat, a competitive advantage that gives them some runway. But they can screw that up. You know, if you haven't backed a great management team, they'll mess all that up. So you know, the old saying, and I agree with it 100%. I take a C business, C+ business with an A management team over what looks to be an A market, an A product with a C management team. I take the former any day of the week.
So at the stage that you invest, which is we invest as, you know, writing the first check or, you know, seed stage, preferably early stage. Do you think that, you know, what you need to see in a founder, the entrepreneurs, might change? You know, because at our stage, maybe it's not so much the management, yes, the execution,
right.
And maybe at your stage where you are, maybe even sometimes the team needs to evolve, transition.
Yeah, I mean, at our stage, that's a very good point. At our stage, the team typically always needs to evolve. And let's just say it's run by the founder at the time we invest. You know, what you want is a founder who's frankly rational and realizes what their limitations may be. So, yeah, I can give you plenty. I'll give you two examples. One way, one another way. GoDaddy, great example. You had this unbelievably savvy marketer in Bob Parsons started. What was his vision? His vision was, I asked him, Bob, what's your vision? Well, and I do an imitation of Bob. I won't do it here. Those of you who heard Bob Parsons speak. But Bob said, you know, I just knew this internet thing was going to be big. And I thought that companies were going to need help building websites. That was his whole vision. And then he'd be the first to tell you that they were sitting around the table and somebody in the room said, you know, if companies have websites, they're going to need domain names. So again, he totally backed into, you know, what became the cash cow of that business. And ultimately, Bob realized that he was not the guy to take the company public. He built it into a behemoth, but he was not a public company CEO. And looked at ourselves, KKR, and Silverbank to come in. And even there, he was a genius because we bought overall 2/3 of the company, and Bob kept a third. And Bob realized, or thought, and the bet turned out to be right, that the third he left in the company was going to be worth more than the 2/3 that he sold. But if he'd been running it, it wouldn't have happened. And it wasn't easy. That was a heavy lift, even though to the outside world it looked like it was a slam dunk. We did a lot of management changes. Technology wasn't probably quite what we thought, but we pivoted and it turned out to be a monster success. I'll give you another story. I won't name the company, but it's one of my last deals. And it was a data management company, data copying company. Technology looked revolutionary. Brilliant CEO. And the company turned out to be a disaster. And it was, this is a knock against East Coast venture capitalists, is they pitched themselves as founder friendly, whatever that means. They wouldn't move on the CEO. I was the only guy who said, this guy can't scale a business. He can't run a business. He will kill us. By the way, he should want to become CTO, chairman of the board. He's a great visionary. He can sell the product, but we need professional management. And I one time looked at him and I said to him, every day you come into the office, it's a little tough, but I did say it to him, you're taking money away from your family, which he was. And, ultimately that company, which again, could have been a multi-billion-dollar company that everybody in this room would have heard of, wasn't a multi-billion-dollar company and was sold for a song to, I guess, Google. And it's funny, as I got, and I'm retired, so as I got to the end of my career, they seemed to find a way of putting me on boards of companies that were troubled, which was fine as long as I didn't make the mess, because all I had was upside, right? Companies troubled. I didn't make the mess. If I could do something that gave us an okay outcome, I was a hero. But boy, I was involved with a company that made a mess. I was not the most rational guy in the room, and certainly not the quietest person in the room. And unfortunately, in that case, it didn't matter. People didn't listen to me.
Well, so I want to make sure we leave some time for questions, but I do want to ask one. So with all that you have seen through your vast experience in venture capital, what advice would you give an entrepreneur that is in the early stage, that maybe it's around the Series A? If there's any crucial piece of advice of the mistakes that you have seen or how to avoid or be prepared better for that later stage, like when TCB is investing?
Oh, and I think it's pretty simple. Deal with somebody you trust and think can add value. And the last thing you should focus on is, the last dollar in terms of valuation or anything like that. And obviously that means you've got to get to know, and of course it's two ways, right? You as the investor should get to know the entrepreneur for as long a period of time as you can before you make the investment. And the entrepreneur should get to know you. And the biggest thing the entrepreneur should figure out about you is if you tell the entrepreneur, Consuelo goes, I'm going to do these 5 things for you over the next 6 months. Well, if after 6 months you've only done one of those things, you're probably not the right person that they should have help build their company. But if you've done 7 out of the 5 things, you're probably the right person, and vice versa. The best due diligence, and of course at our stage you can do, and what we do is get to know the companies early. They tell us what they're going to do, how they're going to perform. if they perform, that's the best due diligence we can possibly ever do. And the only way we can do that is if we get to know them early. And again, the same thing. If we tell them we're going to do these things, we better do those things. Because, you know, we're all in a competitive world. Be naive to say, oh, TCV can get deals 50% less than anybody else. No. But can we maybe get deals 10% less? Can we also, in particular, if it's a really hot deal, you know, get it if the valuation is a tie? Yeah, probably. So it's trust. It's all about trust because you're going to be in, you know, in bed with this person for a long period of time.
Sometimes more than a marriage.
Yeah. Oh, and the divorce can be worse than a marriage too.
Yeah. So I have more questions, but I wanna be cautious.
Sorry, I'm a little long-winded.
No. So let's open for questions. Yeah, Carlos will help us there.
Eric, thank you very much for that enlightening conversation. But the question I have is, after the last years of investing, when valuations went to the moon, you have the cash. You need to use it, otherwise your investors are going to say, what are you doing with my money? And you need to deploy it, right? And valuations are just crazy high, and that obviously narrows the probability of an investment being successful because you have to go in and hire valuations. How did you deal with that process over these last 2-3 years where you had to deploy cash? What were you doing?
That's a great question. And that's a great question about our business. Because our business is, of course, you raise funds and you have a timeline to those funds. So if you had infinite time life, and there are now some funds set up that way, you know what, you could maybe go, well, the real answer is it's a balancing act. Because the problem is, yeah, the world looks like it's getting away from you. Your LPs probably think you're an idiot for, let's just say you're not investing. For not investing, so you look stupid until the day you look like a genius. And there's always tension in our business, and I'd be lying if I didn't say it existed. You know, you want to raise new funds. That's how we make money. And sometimes that has meant you do things toward the end of fund lives. So in a hot environment, because obviously when, you know, when people are throwing money out the door, et cetera, that's a great environment to raise money. Doesn't mean it's the best environment to invest money. You're tempted to join the fray, so you can go raise the next fund in 2 months. Whereas when you're in an environment like you are now, where the bubble's burst, it can take you years. You're not going to raise as much money. I'd like to tell you that we show and have always shown fantastic discipline in those environments. And we've shown some discipline. We've done, you know, we wouldn't be in business for as long as we have. But, yeah, I would tell you our last fund, we've got great companies. I just wish we hadn't paid some of the valuations we did. We're lucky in the stage we invested in, the types of companies we invest in, growth is a big thing. Growth, even if you have overpaid, can usually bail you out. If you got the wrong company, you got the wrong company. It doesn't matter what you paid for. So hopefully growth bails us out of a few deals that maybe we shouldn't have done.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you. So I have this question. So first of all, I'm a unit division of the Chief Scientific Officer of the Poeta Therapeutics. So and I have a question about a company which is trying to raise Series A.
what this company has to look for in a venture firm, in investments. So well, basically, this company has to basically think about the situation and who will be helpful to the company at this stage. What kind of investment?
So I'm sorry, the question was?
What could be helpful for a Series A, to raise a Series A?
Exactly.
So he's...
No. I'm talking about what a company which trying to raise Series A, what they should look for in an investment.
Oh.
What should go for an investment?
Yes.
It all goes back to the biggest thing is trust. I guess related to that is their network. Because the biggest thing you need in a Series A is attracting the right people that can help you grow the company. So is your venture partner, he or she have a great network of potential people that can join you, that can help you find other people, that can give you strategic advice, introductions, that are hardworking, that maybe another thing, that don't bring an ego to the situation. I've been around so many boards where there are people that just like to hear themselves talk, and they know everything. And of course, what you find when you're in that board meeting is as soon as they open their mouths, you just shut down. Usually board meetings last forever, you're tired, you don't even listen to them. So it's people who put you, the entrepreneur, first and leave their ego at the door and enjoy your success as opposed to thinking about their own success.
Okay, I believe one final question. Okay.
Thanks, Rick. Martano, working with Consultant at SBLC. Great talk, really appreciate it. So my question is, some of these big funds, SoftBank, Tiger, that were investing very late stage, extending companies staying private, as they retreat, should founders be thinking of IPO earlier in their development companies? Should that be part of their roadmaps as they build executive teams, they build their own investor base, with a shift back from very large late stage rounds?
I think way too much, particularly when markets are hot, but way too much focus is on meeting investors early. You're taking time away from building the business. The most important thing is build the business. If you've built a great business and all that, the horse will drink the water. People will come. People will want to invest. It's almost like if you're spending a lot of time doing the other stuff, it's like I don't think you're not doing the right thing. And there's a lot of answers to the fact that a lot of those firms have retreated from the business, which they always do. I mean, I've seen this movie 5 times. I mean, when it gets tough, that's when they retreat. And of course, the real answer, and I learned this, it's one of the best things I learned in Montgomery Securities years ago, is that's in fact where you want to be, again, in my business, out there gaining market share, going to visit companies. Because maybe deal flow is slow, but you want to be well positioned when deal flow, picks up. But you as an entrepreneur, and I would also tell you it's a great time, because let's just say you've got your business, and one of the things you've been worried about, rightly so probably, is competitors being founded, right? If it's a good idea, typically, 42 other guys start to think about copying you or doing it. And the good thing about an environment right now is, those companies can't get funding. So it really does give you runway. You're under the covers. You can do things as a private company that you can't do as a public company. You should have no race to get public. Now, I understand you got shareholders and all that sort of stuff, but build the business and good things will come.
Great, thank you. Well, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, I'll make,
Yeah.
finally I'll make an answer quick.
Thank you so much.
Yes or no question, please.
It's more complex than that because you mentioned that one of the things that you're looking for as an investor is great management team, right? But as an early stage investor or even at a stage like yours, what qualities are you searching for to really detect a good management team? You know? Either from the founder or just their experience, but sometimes we know that founders don't have a lot of experience managing a team. So what are those signals that you detect on a founder to say, this guy's got the management ability?
I think, maybe I will make a quick answer. Is one thing. I would say realistic optimism is a bigger part of what you're looking for. And again, with a founder, with an early stage company, and I made this mistake, you get someone who has projections that you look at are off the charts. And you get these projections are off the charts. But you rationalize in your mind, you know what? If he or she is half right, just half right on these projections, this is going to be a monster hit. And guess what? If they're unrealistic about their projections in their business, they're not going to be half right. It's going to be a disaster. And I made that mistake. Others make that mistake. So maybe that's one of the things you look at in a founder. You obviously want them to be optimistic and quite realistic about what the business can and cannot be, particularly in the early stages.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that's all the time we have. Everybody please give Consuelo a break up being real boss.